going on YouTube? Ledger here once again. This time at you again for some more Genshin Impact. And actually this time I want to talk to you guys about Yelan and Xingqiu. People are comparing them quite a bit, understandably so. They do have some similar kits a little bit, but they do have some differences that are vital. And people are starting to think, if I have C6 Xingqiu, do I really need Yelan? And, I can't fully answer that question for you. But what I can do is I can try and tell you the difference between the two and what advantages Xingqiu has over Yelan and vice versa. And I'm talking about C0 Yelan, right? Because Yelan with Constellations, of course, is going to just outperform Xingqiu in all kinds of ways. But most people are not going to be dealing with Constellations. They're going to be dealing with C0. So I'm going to be comparing C0 to C6 Xingqiu and just kind of tell you the difference a little bit to kind of make your decision a little bit more clear when she eventually does come around, right? But let's start with Yelan, right? Let's start with what Yelan can do and what her things are. So what I like to say when it comes to Yelan is that she is more of an offensive unit than Xingqiu. What do I mean by that? All right. So when I say more offensive, all right, I mean, first off, she's going to just hit harder, right? So when I say you're going to hit harder when it comes to Yelan, Yelan is a character that scales solely off HP on a lot of her different skills, right? And the thing that compares her the most to Xingqiu is her burst, right? And her burst, let's say you're trying to get to level 10, it has an activate, like it does damage on activation, but we're not worried about that. But when it comes to it does 8.77% max HP if you crown it. It does that times 3. So it does every instance it does 3 hits, kind of like how Xingqiu does 2, 3, and 5 swords. So she's going to do 3 every single time, right? And when you take that, multiply it by 3, that's a lot of damage. So when you do the math, she's going to do more damage than Xingqiu even if you're using a Favonius or Sacrificial Bow, right? Because a lot of people at C0 are going to probably want to use an energy recharge type weapon on her. Because one base attack, of course, doesn't matter on her, so she's easier to build. And also, you want the energy recharge, right? She has a lower cost burst than Xingqiu, but, just like Xingqiu, you want to have him with a sacrificial sword in order to get his burst up. So kind of similar thing. You still want that energy for it, right? So with less resources, she's going to be able to do more damage than Xingqiu. And then when it comes to their ceilings, she has at C0, she has a higher ceiling than Xingqiu. So she's just going to do more damage than them. She's going to hit harder. So that's another reason why she's more offensive. But another huge reason why she is more offensive is this passive right here, right? This passive is, in my eyes, it's outrageous, right? You get up to a 50% damage bonus, right? It starts at 1 and it goes up, in increments. But if you do your rotations right, your main DPS is going to eventually get that 50% damage bonus, up to 30 to 50% or so, right? That's huge. That's pretty big. So that additional damage is, in sense of just straight offensive capabilities, is going to blow Xingqiu out the water. And also too, on top of that, to buff the team, she's a bow user. So what does she have access to? LG of the End. We just had that on banner not too long ago. LG End, of course, people know is a great bow. And if you put that, it's a 5-star bow, so not a lot of people have it, but it is worth mentioning. If you put that bow on Yelan, it gives her energy recharge, like I was mentioning earlier, and it's going to give the team equivalent to Noblesse buff with a 20% attack, and it's going to give them almost equivalent to an instructor's buff, where instead of 120 EM, it's going to give them 100 EM, right? Phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's going to be wonderful on her. And she's still going to be able to hit hard because of the reasons I was saying earlier. So she's going to be hitting harder than Xingqiu with that, even though she's going to be using a support weapon. So, and I mean, then there's also her weapon that you could always get, but we're not going to talk about that because, that can tend to be real territory, right? But yeah, so That's the thing when it comes to that. So she's going to hit harder than Xingqiu, and she's going to be able to buff the team much better than Xingqiu can, right? So that's why she's more of an offensive player, right? And I know I mentioned constellations are well territory, but people do get lucky. Free-to-plays can get constellations if they get lucky or if they save, so on and so forth. So keep in mind that she does have access to constellations, and with constellations, she starts to just leave Xingqiu in the dust, right? So keep that in mind also too, and I like to put that to account when it comes to her versus Xingqiu. But let's talk about Xingqiu now, right? Xingqiu ain't no slouch, as we already know, because I hype up Yelan a lot, but we can't keep doubting our boy right here. He has been holding it down in the meta for since his game started. He's been going to town, and there's many reasons why, and it's not just because his burst deals damage, right? So I've been talking about Yelan and her offensive capabilities, but he is more of a defensive unit, right? So he has some advantages over Yelan, which kind of makes him a little bit more neck and neck. And now let me tell you a little bit of reason why. What do I mean when I say he's more defensive? Well, the thing is, when he does his skill, as you know, and when he does his burst, he has those swords rotate around the character, right? So when he does that, those swords, when you have them rotating around you, one, it does damage mitigation, right? So you take less damage when you have those swords, because those swords, you take damage and then they disappear, and then they heal the character a little bit, and also it gives you resistance to interruption, right? So that's another thing. So like resistance interruption is big, as a lot of you know, because that allows you to not, have to end your string or end your combo, and you can just keep going, and that's gonna help you out too, right? So that's really good, something that Xingqiu does that Yelan does not, right? Yelan does not heal you a little bit. In a Hu Tao team, you do want that little bit of healing, right? Depending, because you do have your Zhongli, and his shield doesn't really break too much, but sometimes in rotation the shield might run out, or a real big hit might get you and you don't realize your shield's gone, and so on and so forth. Or maybe your other characters might take a hit, and you might want Xingqiu just to heal him just a little bit, So that's the thing when it comes to that. So the same thing with the rotating swords is that they do add Hydra application, right? So now, even though Yelan and Xingqiu's burst, like I've said this many times, but maybe this is your first video seeing me, but even though their bursts add the same amount of Hydra application, right? They do it just the same, but the simple fact of the matter is that Xingqiu has an extra source of Hydra application. So when it comes to a Hu Tao team, you're still going to be wanting to use Xingqiu, right? So because you need that extra Hydra application that he gives you, right? So that's the thing when it comes to that, right? So when it comes to Yelan and any other team besides like a Hu Tao vaporized team, Yelan is just going to be better in terms of offensive ability that she adds, and so on and so forth. Like, do you need those defensive capabilities that Xingqiu is giving you? But for a Hu Tao team, I would argue that you do need that, right? So that's the thing when it comes to that, right? And that's just kind of some of the difference when it comes to Xingqiu C6 versus Yelan C0. So the ideal situation, honestly, is to have both of them, right? Because in a Hu Tao team, having both of them is going to be a lot of extra damage, a whole lot of vaporizing going on, a lot of Hydra application going on, and buffs and all that stuff. So essentially, I think one of Hu Tao's best team is going to be both Xingqiu and Yelan at the same time. But, that's speculation. We'll see when she comes out. But that just kind of gives you an idea, right? Hopefully, that does give you enough information if you're trying to decide, should I get Yelan if I have a C6 Xingqiu? Hopefully, that kind of puts things in perspective to you. Let me know if that did help you out. Let me know if the information that I did give you was helpful. Comment your thoughts down below. Are you planning on getting Yelan? Are you sticking with your Xingqiu? Which one are you going to do? And subscribe to the channel to get more content like this, more informative videos like this and everything, right? So, with that, I'll end it there. Legend out.